I never understand when they said, China's the only country I know where everything they said last year, they have to report on next year. So if they've said, I'm going to do something, can you imagine Congress and the president actually say, well, last year you said you're going to do these things. Did you do them?
大家好，欢迎来到本期视频。先来介绍一下背景啊，主持人是斯坦尼斯拉夫，克拉皮夫尼克。他出生在乌克兰的卢甘斯克，小时候随家人移民美国，还正儿八经当了几年的美国陆军军官。结果因为看不惯美军在巴尔干的所作所为，直接辞职，放弃军衔，跑回了俄罗斯。现在他住在莫斯科，做着一档硬核的政治军事分析播客，叫真理之眼。再说今天的嘉宾艾纳唐根，如果你经常刷一些西方媒体，大概率不会对他陌生。他出生在美国，是个美韩混血，最早在美国做过执业律师和投资分析师。他的人生拐点出现在1999年，偶然的机会，他受到中国官方邀请，第一次到中国访谈。用他自己的话说，那时候感触最深的两件事，一是中国普通人那种求知若渴、想要改变命运的劲头；二是他隐约觉得这个国家正在酝酿一场伟大的复兴，他想亲眼见证。于是他开始频繁穿梭于中美两国，并从2005年开始彻底把事业和生活的重心搬到了北京，一住就是20多年。搬来中国后，他为多家省市政府当过外籍顾问，跑遍了中国几乎所有的省份，深入地方和基层，还协助商业伙伴做投资咨询，创办公司，建立起了他自己对地方发展和治理模式的认知，成了一个贯通中美政商两界的国际通。慢慢的，他也得到了中国官方的信任，身份也随之改变。他开始更加频繁地出现在西方主流媒体上，充当一个信使和翻译官的角色。美国多家媒体关于中国的报道中，他是被引用最多的评论员之一。他用西方听得懂的方式，为他们拆解和澄清对中国的种种误解，向世界阐述中国的发展政策和路径。所以他现在其实也有点半官方的性质，属于那种外籍的外宣人员。好，话不多说，我们来看正片吧。
You got to love who's that gentleman who wrote China collapsed 26-7 years ago.
He's still saying it. Now he's saying Russia collapsed too.
Well, when you run out of one. Well, the funny thing is, Trump outed him and said, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
He doesn't. But he gets, have you seen the amount of views he gets? I mean, if these are real views and not bots.
I've been on shows with him, and he's about as deep as a tissue paper. He'll come on and he'll give his spiel. And, China's in danger of collapse. This is the year, all this kind of stuff. He's saying it for 26-27 years.
Yeah, as opposed to every other year,
No, every year.
Right.
Without every single year, he has predicted the collapse of China. And, and then you say, okay, what are you basing that on? He says, and he'll say some long-term trends and things like that. And I said, no, why don't you give us the information? The facts that you're relying on, because I can cite a lot of facts that indicate that things have been going well. And I always point out, you've been wrong so many times before. What makes you right this time? He gets uncomfortable and he kind of mumbles and stuff like that. He's not articulate at all. And that's what kind of is very strange, because what it means is that here's a guy who's consistently fails to predict anything that's going to happen. And yet he, has books, he has lectures, he's supported by all these think tanks who have him come in, and they say, oh, this is our guy. And I mean, he's given legitimacy. And you had people like that, things now, obviously, people suspect that he's on the payroll of either the think tanks directly or the National Endowment for Democracy, those types of things. And you had people like that who are doing the same thing of China, in terms of, especially with this made up stuff about the genocide in Xinjiang. Xinjiang, there was very clearly, the government made a policy. They said, in every other part of China, you have to learn Putonghua, you have to learn Standard Chinese.
Right.
And they hadn't insisted on that in Xinjiang, because they said, well, it's an ethnic area, we should treat them a little special. But it wasn't helping. What it did, it isolated people. They couldn't get jobs. They couldn't. They couldn't travel. Where are you going to go if you don't speak Standard Chinese? In essence, they said, "No, we're enough of this. This isn't working. Everyone has to learn standard Chinese, and as well, since we're teaching you standard Chinese, we're going to teach you a trade, whether it's sewing or manufacturing, how to drive or repair a truck." And I really wish people would go up there and not on some tour and just go up there and wander around. There are no gulags. And when you talk to people, yeah, there's been troubles up there in the past. But, in part, it was China's own fault. They did not disclose the extent to which radicals had infiltrated there and had been killing off Han people and also other moderate Uyghurs. I mean, I spoke to the guy who was a head imam. They actually have his dad being butchered outside the temple, the largest mosque in Urumqi. And he was caught on CCTV. These guys came up and just sliced him up like he was a pig. And I mean, it's unbelievable. Now, this is Uyghur on Uyghur crime. What's
we
that
know
about?
where they're getting trained.
The most
we know
holy. Yeah, well, we do, but the cynicism that has to go into something like that, getting these young kids so hyped up that they can dehumanize one of their own people, do that. So this is the kind of thing that they said, okay, enough of this. But there had been policies before where they had blown hot and cold, and I mean Beijing. But in the end, they did it. Now, if you go up there, wow, unbelievable place.
Yeah,
I was there in 2014. The hotel we were in got bombed a week later.
Oh.
And there were tanks and armored people there. They had machine guns. This is serious stuff. There were roadblocks all over the place. And then I've gone back a couple of times, and the minders are always trying to say, "Oh, you should talk to this person." We just say, "Oh, that's all right. We're going to go talk to those people walking across the street." And they're like, "Oh my God, don't do that. We don't know what they're going to say." Yeah, that's the whole point.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, they're nervous. I mean, there's a story. I mean, one of the major Western news groups went up there. They applied for permission, said, "We want to look around." So they were escorted everywhere. They said, "We want to go here." Okay, they took them there and things like that. They had an itinerary they agreed to. They went on it, and their minders with them all the time. There's a certain amount of paranoia that goes on, especially with Western press in China.
Oh, I'm sure.
Anyway, they get to the end. They have a big farewell banquet. There's lots of baijiu. Everyone's, shaking hands and laughing and having a good time. And then that news agency goes back to Beijing, and all of a sudden they produce this grainy video looking at a wall with some barbed wire, and they say this is a concentration camp. Okay, so what are the chances that they could go wandering around finding concentration camps in the middle of the night without there? So, I talked to these guys. I said, well, he says, well, this was traumatic for the people involved. They lost trust.
Absolutely.
Foreign media. And now they don't want foreign media to come up, because the last thing they want is somebody come up, make something up like this news organization did, and then they'll be held accountable. China, it's a large bureaucracy, but it's kind of up or out. You have to produce. If you're at fault, they say, well, we could take a chance on you, but there's 10, 20 people below you who can fulfill your function. So it's in terms of competition, it's a very brutal competition, and people are very, very leery about making mistakes, and that has its downside. I mean, there's a lot of people who say, well, I did nothing, so I did nothing wrong, so don't blame me. Well, the people at the top aren't buying that. They're kind of saying, especially Xi Jinping, he says, if you did nothing, you're worth nothing. Move on. We need to find people who want to do the right thing and who want to find solutions. And I'm not just glorifying China. It's any government that's looking out for its people. That's what you're supposed to do. What else is a government? It's not there to oppress you and tax you and hem you in. It is simply there to provide an orderly society.
Wait. There's plenty of clerks that don't understand that. They're there for the people, not the
They
people.
shouldn't be there. They shouldn't be there.
True.
You know, how many kids in your grade school got up and said to the teacher, "My dream is to be a clerk at the DMV."
And yet, quite a few become that.
I want to stand there and be really mean to random people. But I mean,
the Russian government needs to accept more on the lower level to maybe mid-tier. It needs more of that Chinese attitude, because a lot of Russian clerks in the bureaucracy, their attitude is, if I don't move my butt and don't do anything extra, I don't burn any more calories and I won't get in trouble.
Exactly. I did nothing. So what are you blaming me for?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, actually, let me tell you something, how that changed, though, dramatically. In cities, it used to be just horrendous. You know, you had a problem, you go to one group, and they'd pass you around like a party favor, you know.
Yep, know that feeling.
Go to that place. Well, I've been there 6 times, and I've been here 5 times, and you're sending me back there again. Well, it's not our problem. You should go see them.
Yep.
So China instituted this, what they call the mayor's hotline, and it's active in almost every city I know. So in Beijing, you just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on your phone. You're immediately connected. Doesn't matter what language you need. They'll find the language for you. You tell them your complaint. It has to be resolved within 72 hours.
Wow.
And they keep statistics. You know, the Chinese love statistics.
Oh, yes.
And then there's always a report card. And this is the thing I never understand when they said, China's the only country I know where everything they said last year, they have to report on next year. So if they've said, I'm going to do something, can you imagine Congress and the president actually say, well, last year you said you're going to do these things. Did you do them?
Wait. Trump doesn't remember what he said by midday. He doesn't remember what he said in the morning. He's probably reversed himself 3 times by that point.
That's not. He's playing, 6-dimensional underwater chess. We just don't see it. Okay?
In a vacuum.
We just think he's a dumb, ignorant bastard who doesn't give a shit about anybody. But we're wrong. He's actually a genius. Just ask him.
I've got a feeling he's more playing like one-dimensional checkers.
I'm going to go with your first answer. He doesn't know what he's saying in the morning and the afternoon anymore. I mean, can you believe the things he's gone back and forth in Iran? First thing, I'm going to obliterate you unless you do it by this time. Well, the deadline passes. Well, I'll give you a little bit more time. Or, he just goes hot and cold as if this is somehow going to help the lack of trust that already exists. I mean, why would the Iranians sit down with him? He broke a treaty, right? He just walked away from it. The last 2 times they sat down at the peace table, he attacked them before the peace negotiations were over. How do you say to yourself, I really should sit down and talk to this guy?
The guy's name, I looked it up. He's not the only one. There's a whole herd of these guys, but the big one, Peter Zeigen. If I'm pronouncing Zeigen.
No. This is a Chinese guy. I'm sorry, I'm just blanking. Getting like Trump.
Peter Zeigen's a really big one for 20 plus years, and the man, if you look at, it's the same thing. What are your, what are you basing it on?
Gordon Chang. Gordon Chang is the second one on there.
Okay, yeah, I know. I've seen his stuff too. It's like
that's
you listen
one that I did shows with
to the evidence, and you're like, God, this is just it is about as thin as a napkin, but he gets like millions of views, people, and he's saying the same. He's worse than the Seventh-day Adventists. They keep predicting the end of the world and Christ coming back. Oh, we screwed our formula up again. With this guy, every single year Zeigen's been at it for at least 20 years. And now he's gotten Russia. He's expanded now. Russia's collapsing. China's collapsing. Russia's collapsing. India's collapsing. He's branching out.
There's an old saying. He says, always wrong, but never in doubt.
Exactly. It never, like, when I was looking up his name, he had a short video, the big winners after China's collapse. That was like from February of this year. They're still waiting to win. They're going to be win biglies, the Trump win biglies.
He needs to go on those prediction betting operations.
Yeah, we've got a show called Extra Sense, so he can get on there as a competitor.
Yeah, but I mean, we sit here and laugh at this, but I mean, these people have been at it for so long. They've been wrong all this time, and yet they're given credence. They're,
Yes.
as you said. Now, a lot of people, my son is in data. He's doing a master's at Tsinghua, which is one of the leading universities in China. Well, it is the leading university in China. So he pays a lot of attention to all the data, and he says, "Well, Dad, actually, a lot of these sites are using bots. So it seems like there's millions out there.
Yeah.
It actually might just be an Indian or a Southeast Asian bot farm, which has, 500,000 that is swapping back and forth, and it looks like millions every day. But actually, there's only 6 people."
这期视频就到这里了，欢迎大家在评论区理性交流和补充，本视频仅代表个人观点。另外，制作视频不易，如果您觉得做得不错，感谢您动动手指，一键3连。如果您有更多的想法或建议，也可以在评论区告诉我，我都会看见。我们下期见。